What happens when 450 million people open Facebook and see a pop-up asking them to pay €13 a month or hand over their data? Meta called it compliance. The Commission called it a €200 million violation. That was April 2025, and nothing about social media in Europe would look the same. If you want to understand how billion-euro fines actually work in Europe, subscribe. I break down the biggest corporate punishments every week. In November 2023, a new screen appeared on every Facebook and Instagram account across Europe. If you used either app in the European Union, you saw it. A pop-up, centered on your phone, with 2 buttons and no way to close the window without choosing one. Option 1. Pay €9.99 per month on a computer, or €12.99 per month on a phone, and browse without advertising. Option 2. Tap consent and let Meta track every click, every scroll, every message thread, every page you linger on, to build an advertising profile and sell targeted ads against it. There was no third option, no middle ground, and no way to keep scrolling for free without handing over everything. 450 million people across 27 countries stared at the same binary toggle on the same day. Meta branded this product subscription for no ads and called it user choice. The timing was calculated. A new European law called the Digital Markets Act had just come into force, requiring the biggest platforms to get proper permission before combining user data across their services. Meta had been officially designated as a regulated platform in September of 2023. They had 6 months to comply. Their answer was a pop-up with 2 buttons and a credit card form. They called it choice. Brussels called it a violation. The fine called it €200 million. Within days of that screen appearing across the continent, the complaints started landing on regulators' desks. Consumer protection groups from Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Greece, and Italy filed coordinated objections through the European Consumer Organization. The coordinated complaint alleged that Meta's so-called choice was neither clear nor genuine, that the design used biased wording and interface tricks to push users toward consenting, and that the subscription price was set deliberately high to discourage anyone from actually paying it. In Vienna, a privacy lawyer named Max Schrems sat down at his desk, pulled up Meta's pop-up on his own phone, screenshot it, and filed a formal legal challenge through his organization called None of Your Business. You might not know Schrems by name, but if you have ever seen a cookie consent banner on a European website, his legal battles are part of the reason it exists. He had spent a full decade dragging Meta through courtrooms across the continent. Just months earlier, in May of 2023, he had helped force a €1.2 billion fine against them for illegally shipping European user data to American servers. His position on the new pop-up was blunt enough to fit on a protest sign. Consent is not consent if the only alternative costs money. The European Data Protection Board had already said as much in an official opinion, warning that large platforms cannot claim valid consent if users face only a binary choice between being tracked and paying a subscription fee. Meta had heard all of this before. They had been warned publicly, fined repeatedly, and told in writing that binary consent models would not survive legal scrutiny in Europe. Yet here they were, rolling out exactly that kind of screen to every single user on the continent. A company that connects a third of the planet still could not figure out how to ask for permission without sending an invoice. On March 25th of 2024, investigators at the European Commission headquarters in Brussels opened a formal case file. They pulled up Meta's pop-up on test devices, examined the toggle design, mapped exactly which data flows were triggered by each button, and assessed whether the binary choice met the legal standard under the Digital Markets Act. Picture an office in the cross-shaped Berlaymont building, screens showing Meta's interface side by side with the text of the law, arrows drawn between legal requirements and the reality of what users actually saw when they opened the app. By July 1st of that same year, their preliminary conclusion arrived at Meta's glass-fronted headquarters on Fibonacci Square in Dublin, a campus that had only opened its doors 9 months earlier. The Internal Market Commissioner announced publicly that Meta's pay or consent model was in breach of the law. The Competition Commissioner added that citizens deserve the power to choose a less personalized experience without being forced to pay for it. The requirement was specific and, honestly, not complicated. The law said Meta must offer a less personalized but equivalent version of Facebook and Instagram, and offer it free of charge, since the original service had always been free. If you are reading this and thinking that sounds reasonable, the Commission agreed with you. Meta's pop-up offered nothing like that. You either paid monthly or you surrendered your browsing behavior completely. The law did not ask Meta to stop running ads. It asked Meta to stop pretending there was only one way to use Facebook in Europe. Meta had 4 months to respond. They chose to tweak the model rather than rebuild it from scratch. In November of 2024, exactly 1 year after the original pop-up launched, engineers in Dublin pushed a software update adding a third button to the screen. Users could now choose less personalized ads, meaning Facebook would use significantly less of their data to decide what appeared in their feed. If you are still using Facebook in Europe today, this is likely the version you are seeing right now, that third option sitting below the original two. But the Commission kept investigating regardless. The tweak triggered more scrutiny, not less, because investigators needed to determine whether this new button truly met the standard of equivalence. Meta's spokesperson insisted publicly that the subscription model followed the direction of the highest court in Europe and fully complied with the law. Their written defense went further, claiming that their range of choices went beyond what the law actually required. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, American officials called the entire investigation a tariff on American technology firms. And in a strange twist during this same period, Meta successfully convinced the Commission to remove Facebook Marketplace from the regulated platform list entirely, winning one regulatory battle while losing another on the same floor of the same building in Brussels. Meta told Europe its choices exceeded the law. The Commission told Meta its choices violated it. On April 23 of 2025, Commissioner Teresa Ribera stood at the press podium in the Berlaymont building with the blue European Union flag behind her and announced the fine: €200 million. The first penalty ever issued under the Digital Markets Act since the law came into force. Meta's Vice President Tim Lam responded within hours, calling the decision both incorrect and unlawful, and confirming an immediate appeal. The violation period covered 8 months, from March of 2024 when compliance became mandatory, through November when Meta finally added its third option. For scale, the maximum possible fine was 10% of global revenue, which for Meta would have exceeded €15 billion. 200 million was barely 1% of that ceiling. For a company worth over $1 trillion, that is less than 1 week of European advertising revenue. But a rounding error that rewrites the rules for every technology company on the continent is not really a rounding error at all. Meta filed its appeal to the General Court of the European Union. Payment is suspended while judges consider the case over the next 3 to 5 years. The Commission is simultaneously reviewing whether Meta's revised third option actually satisfies the law or whether daily penalty payments will follow. Every other regulated platform, Apple, Google, TikTok, Amazon, and ByteDance, is watching closely because the outcome determines how consent must work across the entire European internet going forward. Max Schrems declared publicly that Meta is completely out of options in the European Union and that users will now need to be asked directly whether they want their data used for advertising. The economic stakes behind this shift are enormous. Personalized advertising is linked to €213 billion in annual activity across Europe, supporting an estimated 1.44 million jobs in the digital economy. Meta's own numbers show that its less personalized option uses 90% less data, but delivers 70% fewer conversions for advertisers. That 70% drop changes what businesses can afford to promote, what appears in your feed every morning, and how much revenue flows through the entire European advertising economy. The business model that built Facebook into a $1 trillion company is being reshaped by one legal requirement that sounds almost embarrassingly simple: give people a real choice. In November of 2023, 450 million Europeans saw a pop-up on their screens. By April of 2025, that pop-up had become the most expensive user interface in European history. Next week, a company paid billions in fines to keep one app bundled with one operating system. They lost everything anyway.